I will call the January 24th Paulding County Board of Commissioners work session to order, and thank you all for being here. Sometimes elected officials just don't stand out, but I don't see any city council members or judges. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're glad to have all of you all here. And again, thanks for your participation. Brian, if you'll bring forward the list of citizens to speak. And if you have a phone on or anything, it's a good time to turn that off. Thank you. And we're thrilled to have Pastor Gene Morehouse from Westside Christian Church to bring us our invocation and lead us in the pledge. Stand if you're able.
I'm going to start off with the scripture and then prayer. This is from Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter. It says, Lord, I have remembered your fame, and I am afraid of the deeds that you might do if wicked in individuals. I pray for each and every one of you that you use common sense and follow good values and love the Lord. Let's bow for prayer, please. Heavenly Father, this is my first time with this new group, and I ask, Lord, that you watch over them, help them, guide them, protect them, and help those who have voted and been a part of this community, that we may be of support and love to one another, that we may continue to see this county grow, see this county prosper, and see this county be a place where families feel safe and their children can be raised with values and morals that would be pleasing to you. We love you, Lord, and we thank you for your love and compassion to us. Be with each and every leader, whether it be from the fire department to the police, to the local security guards, to those who take care of those in the nursing home and assisted living. We ask, Lord, that you watch over those who have a responsibility of doing what's right and helping others. In the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus, all God's people said, amen. Let's pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Morehouse. That was wonderful. Appreciate it. Under minutes, the January 8th, 2019 work session minutes and the January 8th, 2019 board meeting minutes are available for review.
Hey, Dave, I've got a couple of changes that I need to ask that we put in the minutes. Would you like that as a motion now?
Why don't we go through it doesn't have to do with announcements or bid awards?
No, it was just an update to just a correction in the minutes, but we can do it later if you'd like.
Okay, let me call on that here after the bid awards.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
We have a real exciting Positively Paulding this morning that Jeff Harkins and Austin Haygood have done another wonderful job on. So February is Black History Month, and so we're ahead of the game. This will be on Channel 23 all through February, but we wanted to get a preview today.
In honor of Black History Month, I'm excited to interview several Black leaders who have inspired our generation and making a difference in our community.
Black history is important because as an African American man, not just a pastor, knowing who I am, knowing that we were kings, knowing that Black people invented things, that Black people created things, Black people have been a cause to make America great.
History is going to help us learn, keep going.
Blacks have played an integral part of civil rights, civil justice. Blacks have fought in every war, in every skirmish this country has ever had. And I think you cannot talk about history of the United States, history of even the Western world without bringing up Black history and the contributions of Blacks to the American experience.
The fact that we set aside this month make you put a concentrated effort on giving tribute to those African Americans who've made a contribution to our society.
Black history is important because it's part of who we all are. Just like Native American history, European history, because the United States, as we know, is a melting pot. The Statue of Liberty welcomes all in to come in and be a part. And we have to make sure that when people come to, not just to the United States, but to Paulding County, Hiram, Dallas, that they feel welcome and become a part of the community so we all can work together to improve each other and our community.
And I went to a school board meeting that was talking about getting buses to bus black kids because we had no way of getting to school but walking. I heard one of the school board members says, why should we buy buses and books? They're going to be farm hands anyway. That fire still burns in my heart. That's why even now I'm still a student. And I encourage people to study, because black history, without studying our history, having the goal to do better and to leave something behind, that our youth will know that black people of color contribute greatly to the great United States of America. That's why it's important to me.
Good job, Angela. And Cliff McGrady from Hiram is here with us in the back, and Reverend McBurrows was here also. There he is, sitting behind those tall ladies, Pastor. Thank you all for being here. Right. Be safe. And Representative Kim Alexander is going to be in the building on Friday to add a little bit more to that clip. I'd like to ask for Paulding DOT Director George Jones to go over the podium so everybody can see you, and just to make the announcement about the town hall tonight, please.
Morning. I'd just like to announce that tonight from 5 to 7 there's going to be a public information open house regarding the Cedar Crest Road widening project at the Shelton Elementary School cafeteria located at 1531 Cedar Crest Road. The project itself is for widening about 2.7 miles of Cedar Crest Road from Harmony Grove Church Road to the Cobb County line. Basically, the project was programmed based on the need for an improved roadway to, reduce congestion now and in the future, and improve the safety on the roadway. The public information open house meeting is to inform the public that a project is proposed in the area, and to gather information and receive comments from folks who are interested in it. And basically, the POH provides an opportunity for local officials, residents, civic groups, neighborhood groups, businesses to ask questions and comments on the project. And we would definitely want anybody who is interested in this project to be there anywhere from 5 to 7. There's going to be no formal presentation, but we're going to have display boards of the project itself, and we'll have folks who'll be able to answer any questions about the project at this meeting. So, like I said, we're definitely want people to understand what's going on out there, and we're looking forward to being up there and answering questions.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
I thought I'd received the last Christmas present, but you never know what's going to happen on the panel up here. And sat down and had this toy, and you can kind of shake it around, and the last thing it said to me was, "Nice try." So I'll keep working on it, Brian. At this time, well, we have no invited guest, and Ron, why don't you go ahead and make your changes at this time?
Okay, thanks, Dave. The first change to the minutes that I saw that was needed is it's on the for the work session. It's about a third of the way down on the second page. There was let me find it, excuse me. There's a paragraph that says, Commissioner Davis expresses belief that the board would need to do something about their current county attorney, stating they had a county attorney until they fired her or she resigned, asked if and when she resigned. Then the next paragraph says, Chairman Carmichael stated that Ms. Skipper was appointed, and goes on to talk about interim attorney. I'd like to suggest we change that to reflect what happened in the meeting. So the paragraph that starts with Chairman Carmichael would be changed to say, Chairman Carmichael stated that Ms. Skipper had resigned during the week and then stated that Ms. Skipper was appointed as county attorney, and then it would continue as is. That's the first change that I saw that's needed. And then the second change was in the regular board meeting minutes. That's also on the second page. That one's about halfway down. The line is, it was under new business action 1, where we appointed the new county attorney. The last line there says, Chairman Carmichael asked Jason Phillips to join the board up front. That actually happened after the designation of Commissioner Stover as Chairman Pro Tem, so that one line needs to move after new business item number 2. And those were the 2 things I saw in the minutes.
I had seen the change that you mentioned about when I asked Attorney Phillips to come and just describe what the law says about interim. But the first one, I still don't understand what you're saying.
I'll go back to read that. What had happened was that I asked you if Lonnie had resigned, and you told me that she did, and I asked when, and you said during the week, and then you went on to explain about the interim being appointed until someone else has been appointed. So I wanted the record, the minutes to show what actually happened during that meeting.
Okay, I think it was a misunderstanding. I didn't say that she resigned. I said we had talked about.
You said she resigned. I said, did she resign? You said yes. I said when, and you said during the week.
Oh, that is incorrect. 'Cause she didn't
Okay,
resign.
well,
She didn't resign during the week.
Okay, she had resigned during the week?
No, she did not. She never did resign. It was. I spoke of resignation with her, but she didn't resign.
Okay, but I guess that, I understand that, but what happened in the meeting is what I'm trying to get to show in the minutes. And what happened in the meeting is that she told me that she had resigned.
Well, then I'm correcting that statement today, because what I meant to convey and communicate at the last meeting was that we had spoke about resignation, and we came up with the conclusion, not just in talking with her, but in talking to the county administrator and talking to Mr. Phillips, that just like Mr. Phillips said when he came up to the podium, that there's no requirement for an interim to resign.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
And but that's not actually not what I'm wasn't here to get into that. My concern here is that the minutes that we approve reflect what actually happened in the meeting. And what actually happened in the meeting was what I just read. And so that's why I've asked the board to change those minutes accordingly.
I would
So do you
say
need-
that you'd
do you-
go back and watch the video, and if that's what was said, that we place that in the minutes and then reflect in the minutes today that I corrected the fact that she didn't actually resign.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may address that briefly. So what Commissioner Davis is requesting is that we got really 2 issues. One of those issues is what happened at the meeting based on what events took place. And Commissioner Davis is indicating that based on his recollection, he understood you at the work session to have stated that Ms. Skipper had resigned. And what you're asking to have happen is that the minutes of the work session accurately reflect what was stated.
That's correct.
That is a different issue as to what you understood to be the case. The minutes simply record what happened at the meeting.
That's correct.
As opposed to whether or not now Chairman Carmichael had a misunderstanding of
That's
what the
correct.
facts were. These are simply the minutes.
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll make that correction to the minutes, and then minutes from
Rebecca,
today.
did you get both of those corrections? Okay, thank you.
All right, under bid awards, number 1 is to award the purchase of a Bobcat E55 compact excavator to Bobcat of Atlanta in the amount of $59,747. Ms. Pollard.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
As we are adding our stormwater division functions back into operations, this will allow them to, I am really loud. This will allow them to dig trenches, install pipes, and clear and grub detention ponds. DOT worked with fleet maintenance to determine the type of equipment that they needed, and Bobcat excavator was determined to be the most efficient piece of equipment they could use, and it also includes an option for an arm, which some of the other equipment did not include. So that led us to a little bit of a problem in getting more than one quote. So we reached out to Bobcat. They provided us with a quote for this piece of equipment, and to check that, we reached out to Sourcewell. And Sourcewell is a co-op purchasing agreement where it's a national purchasing contract where this piece of equipment's been bid before, and we're actually purchasing this piece of equipment at a lower cost than that co-op contract. So that made Fleet and DOT comfortable with the price.
Any questions for Ms. Pollard? Well, number 2 is to award Quail Ridge Road Culvert Replacement Project to the low bidder Baldwin Paving in the amount of $397,770.31. Ms. Pollard.
This particular project, we had 2 bidders participate, and it will consist of replacing 2 drainage structures with aluminum arched culverts, and also including grading, base, and paving on this section of Quail Ridge Road. So we're recommending award to the lowest bidder in the amount of $397,770.31.
Dave, on this one, 2 things that I'd like to mention. First, staff has been working very diligently on this. That road is a Post 1 road, and Dave, I'm sure you've been down it.
Oh, yeah.
It is in bad shape and has been in bad shape for the better part of a decade. So I want to just say thank you to the staff. I know Scott and George and a whole lot of other people have been working on it. We actually had a neighborhood meeting out there a while back, now about it, maybe almost a year.
Last April.
In April, okay. So we had a meeting about that. So I heard from them last night, and when they saw this on the agenda, they were very excited about that, and they wanted me to pass on their appreciation to the staff that's worked diligently on this. The other thing that I want to mention is that we had an issue in Post 4, I think it was Gulledge Road, that involved Baldwin Paving, and I've spoken to George about this. I just want to make sure that we're not going to see the same issues on this project that we saw on the other one. And so, George, would you comment about what we're doing to make sure that that's not an issue for these folks?
Ron, I think this is a little different animal. It's a drainage project versus a paving project. We've had a long relationship with Baldwin Paving over the years and had generally very good results. The resurfacing project, the last through road resurfacing project, did not go as well as we'd liked. There was delays. They had liquidated damages assessed to them. We've changed our through road paving to start earlier in the year, and we've also almost doubled the liquidated damages, so that won't happen again. And if it does happen, it will be monetarily disadvantageous for them to do something like that. We've basically put this almost bulletproof, in my opinion. But getting back to this, arch culverts, Baldwin, I believe they have the personnel and the resources and the experience to do this project in the timeline that we have, 6 months. So we're going to watch them. We're going to make sure that this project goes smoothly. Obviously, there's only one way to get in and out. Those residents are extremely impacted by this project, but we will make sure that this project is done in an acceptable time frame. I guarantee
and
that.
You mentioned timeline. What do we anticipate for them getting started and finishing?
Well, once we issue the NTP, we're talking probably at least a month away or so. So.
Okay.
Yeah, once we issue the NTP, it's 6 months from, and they have,
Okay.
not from 6 months from when they actually start work, but 6 months from the NTP.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other questions?
That's all I have. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Got some good reports from committees and departments this morning. First begin with Deidre Holden, our election supervisor, and she's going to give us an update on a press release. A lot of things going on in the election world, right, Deidre?
Good morning. Thank you for giving me
Morning,
just a
Deidre.
few minutes. In the December meeting for the Board of Elections, they unanimously voted to put together an election support committee. And this committee would basically be people from our community that would serve, and that they would be kind of our boots on the ground and out there looking for potential polling locations, early voting locations, poll workers, things that we can't see because we're most of the time in the office working on the things that we have to do here. If I can, I would like to tell you how we would like this committee to be made up. Because it does involve a post commissioner. But the committee would be made up of one Democratic representative that would be appointed by the Democratic Party, a Republican representative that would be appointed by the Republican Party, one post commissioner, and then there would be 2 citizens from each post district. And they would be appointed by the Board of Elections by an application process. This is a non-paid commission. They'll just, not commission, committee, and they will meet quarterly just to kind of sit down and offer up ways that we can better serve the voters of our county, to make suggestions, to tell us what's working in their community and what's not working in their community. So we're looking forward to doing this. The terms would be 24-month terms with the exception of the post commissioner, and that post commissioner would be a 12-month term. So basically, we want to have this organized by March the 1st, and we are on track to do that. So we just want to just kind of, take the blinders off and listen to the people, because that's who we serve, and we feel that by putting this committee together, that the committee can offer suggestions for us to help us in the election world. And I also want to take the opportunity to invite each of you. You all have received an invitation, but everyone in the audience, as well as the people who are listening, we have a vendor downstairs. We're having a regional election meeting right now downstairs in the cafeteria, and there is a vendor there that has a voting system that would be very similar to what we have recommended to the General Assembly for our next voting system for Georgia. Many of you know that I served on the SAFE Commission, and this is something that the people have asked for. It is a ballot marking device, but it's also verifiable. So if someone wants to come back and audit us, they can do so and see exactly that our votes match up to what has been tallied. So if you have a few minutes, they'll be down there till about 2 o'clock. Please come down, put your hands on the machines, ask questions, and just see what it's all about, because we're very excited about this. Do y'all have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Deidre.
Next report is from our finance director, Ms. Tabitha Pollard, who, as routinely, when we get halfway through the fiscal year, which is January, Ms. Pollard will kind of bring us up to date, whether we're ahead, behind, or any other information that she wants to provide.
Sorry for that delay, but hopefully everybody in the audience can read the screen now. I have copies of a mid-year report that were in the back hopefully I had enough. If I didn't, I'll put them on the website. First, I want to talk about the general fund and the revenues and where we are, and then we'll talk about the expenditures. If you'll recall, last year when we were going through the budget process, we increased several of our revenues, and this will give you an idea as to how we are, how those revenues are actually coming in. So in our first line, of course, each column you have your original budget, your final budget, December of this year and December of the prior year, and then your percent used is your current year amount. So for property taxes, we have collected approximately 96% of those. At this time last year, we had collected approximately 92%. So they're very similar. Other taxes, we have collected 20 million as opposed to last year was 18 million. We did have some of that increase budgeted, so that percent collected for this year is 61, and it's exactly the same as it was last year based on the prior year budget. Overall, I will tell you this, that investment income does have there are some investment income that's not captured on there, so that is significantly higher than the 68. It will exceed the 74 that was in the prior year. Overall, we have revenues collected of 77% this year. That's exactly the same as it was this time last year. So it was at 77%. We do have increased. There's $4 million more than there was collected at this time last year, but a lot of that was budgeted and planned for going into the year. I want to give you some specifics, if I can get to it. I don't think that's mine. So specifically for the title ad valorem tax, if you see the green bar is a good bit higher than the other years, that is 2019. That increase began, if you look at March of last year, we began to see an increase in title ad valorem tax revenue. That increase has continued, and for the remainder of the year, I have estimated exactly what we collected last year. So with not a lot of growth, because that growth occurred in March, so hesitant to add growth that beyond what we had already seen. The local option sales tax, we budgeted an increase there as well. We have exceeded those revenues in the first 6 months of this year. Well, the first 5 months. December was collected at a lower rate. And for the remainder of the year, I've estimated the same as last year, with hopes that we'll have a little bit of growth for some additional funds. So those are good. That's good information to have as we get ready to go into the budget process in the next few months. Below the revenues, you have the expenditures. Basically, all departments are listed by department. The budget's approved at the departmental level. So each department has the ability to move funds around within that department. I'm going to skip down and go all the way to the bottom, or to page 6, I believe it is, to the end of the general fund. To the total expenditures. So right here you have your total expenditures, and this year we are at 29.4 million, and last year we were at 29.4 million. It's 39% expenditures have occurred already this year, and Last year, we were at 41%. So we're right on track with revenues and expenditures. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit of growth in the revenues. At the bottom of this, I would like to kind of give you an idea of the difference between this number and this number, because it's talking about a use of fund balance. So in the budget that we approved in August, we had budgeted for a use of fund balance of $1.8 million. June 30th, when we close the year, we take the encumbrances that have already been obligated for June and roll them into 2019. So that increases the amount of expenditures that we have budgeted by almost $4.5 million. And if you look back to the CAFR is online for the fiscal year 2018 year, we added to fund balance this year in the amount of $4.5 million. It was primarily the amount that we added to fund balance, the amount that had already been obligated, because those funds had not been spent. They had been encumbered, they were obligated, but they were not, the expense had not actually occurred until fiscal year 2019. So we are pretty much on track for what we had planned, with a little bit of growth in revenues, but we'll see how the budget works out this year to hopefully absorb, put those revenues to use. So if y'all have any questions?
The only question I have is, are you going to plan for another one of those wonderful budget workshops that you figured out how to run?
We are going to try to do one of those workshops. I need suggested dates from each of you.
Okay.
So if y'all can get me possibly 2 dates, the mid-April.
Okay.
Or late March.
Just for the public's knowledge, that will be advertised, because we will have a quorum here discussing county business. But in that meeting, we get several tables set up in this room, and we divide and conquer, and each table works through a budget, and it is a very eye-opening process. If you've not been a part of the budget process for the county, that budget workshop that we do is a wonderful thing. Tabitha's done a great job kind of brainstorming that one and making it a reality, and it helps the board with the budget process. I know it helps Tabitha with the budget process, and anyone who sits in on it will have a new appreciation for how that budget comes together. And so I would encourage you all, if you see that advertised, to plan to spend maybe a day, maybe a half a day up here and going through that with us. It's worth your time.
Just to underscore, Commissioner Davis, that is public invited. So we first year we did it, we had a full table. Last year we just had one individual. So, but love to have you there. It is an eye-opening experience. Tabitha, I was going to just clarify for my own budget understanding, the obligated expenses you said were somewhere around $4.5 million.
Yes, sir. So June 30th of last year, we had talked about it pretty extensively as to how we were going to end the year, and it didn't look like we were going to add to or take away from fund balance. Those were that information was based on what had been obligated. So June 30th, if the expense has not been occurred, of course we're on accrual basis, more information than you want, but if the expense is not earned or accrued as of June 30th, then it doesn't mean the funds go away. If you've already made the obligation, you have the work in progress, then you're going to have to pay for it. So what we'll do is close those POs, close those encumbrances out for 2018 and open them back up in 2019. So what that does basically is creates a budget amendment that will be approved by you at the end of the year, but those obligations were put in place by board action or by policy.
And you told me there were no dumb questions. Remember that?
That's right. That's right. And so we added
so-
to fund balance, but as you can see, that we added to fund balance by $4.5 million.
Mhm.
As you can see, we have the obligation going into 2019 for the exact same or roughly the $4.5 million.
And now we're almost 7 months into 2019. And sometimes, and I worked for the state for many years, and it varies a little bit, so I think that's why I need the clarification. But all of those funds that were obligated now have been spent for exactly what they were obligated for by 7 months into the current fiscal year. True?
Correct. Or we hope some of them were less than what they may have been obligated for if the actual expense came in lower.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions?
I will mention that there are, the fire is behind the general fund, then you have debt service, water, sewer, and landfill. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through each one of those.
Well, your work is irreplaceable. Thank you so much for continuing to stay on top of these. We're going to have some tough decisions, and we need to have good information. So. And now we have comprehensive program services in the building, and it's great to have Mr. Eric Johnson, the president, to come bring us up to date on the detention center. You love rain, right?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman, fellow commissioners, Mr. Baker. Thank you for having us here. Again, my name, for those new faces, my name is Eric Johnson with Comprehensive Program Services. We're the program managers over the Paulding County Adult Detention and Law Enforcement Center. We're headlong into construction, and we gave an update in November, and we're coming for our monthly update this month. I would recognize Tim Collins and Lance Painter with Turner are here. Thank you guys for showing up for the support. With that, let's go ahead and get started here. Again, whatever pertinent information we need to keep the public informed, we load up on pauldingjail.com. Kind of catchy. That seems to be working out really well. Budget, this is very similar to the budget. It is similar. It is the same budget that we presented back in November. The overall project budget is $70,200,000, which has been revised a couple times, those line items, as we've described and explained previously in other commission meetings. But those line items are the same. Down below, you'll see the line item within Turner's guaranteed maximum price. They have a construction contingency, which they are able to use to fill gaps in their buyout. We manage that with them. So you'll see originally it was $1,310,50, and currently it's $779,268. So we've gone over a couple of the cost impacts that we've had previously. When we presented back in November, there were 3 issues that we brought up. The precast panel changes, which was based on all of our reviews with the city of Dallas and the district that the jail is in. We had to make some modifications to the exterior, basically put some reveals, brick pattern, and the precast panels, which were done locally for you 3 commissioners here at Metromont. They've been a very big team player, done an excellent job. The second one was the conformance documents, which was basically taking documents that the GMP were produced at 75%, get to 100%, and just basically that's what it came out to be, which included a good bit of site work. Made some changes out there. So a third item in there, which was not approved, but we did asked for funding, but we didn't have a funding source, was the rock. Okay, so I want to not to get too far in the weeds or in the rock too much. We did change order 1 approved officially the precast panel changes in the conformance documents, which were included into Turner's guaranteed maximum price. Currently, their GMP is $61,023,012, and if you go back to here, you'll see what we did when we moved some numbers around. The actual construction manager at risk budget item we're carrying is $61,250,000. So between what's in their GMP now and what was budgeted, there's a delta to the plus of around $226,688. The reason I say that is the one issue that we were dealing with was rock. We gave you an estimate. We did a lot of scientific stuff, came up with an estimate of 11,000 yards. Good thing is there was roughly 6,035 cubic yards of rock, and there was some associated site work dealing with how to dispose of it and everything else. But the number that we had brought to you early on was 595,263, which was our estimate that we presented back in November, if you remember that. That number right now, Turner has provided a change order request. Within that, there's some other issues that we're still under review, but within that change order request, the rock actually came in around $450,000. So that's good news. It actually is less than we thought it was going to be, which is good. So with that, as you see in there, change order number 14, which is under review. And when I say under review, it is, we're doing surveys. We have third-party testing. We're measuring every yard that's on here that gets moved, which is a different rate than if it gets sent over to the training center. You'll see a lot of trucks that are rolling around. We're doing everything we can. And Scott Green and Bruce Quail have been instrumental with that, and the sheriff's office, obviously, in being able to deal with all the issues revolving around the rock. So two other issues that we're dealing with, high-speed bifold doors for the sheriff's office operations, and one other issue that we have brought up before is the burn pit that was left over from the construction of these buildings, which is exactly where we're putting the visitation center. So we're mitigating that issue, and we're saying the range of dealing with it is going to be $50,000 to $100,000, and not to get too far in the weeds on that one either. We're going down 3 feet. It's about 8 feet deep. We've done some investigation on it. We're going down 3 feet, trying to put some sort of structural barrier, and then kind of build up from there so we don't have to dig out 8 feet of stuff and take it somewhere else. So if it goes well, it's going to be closer to 50. If we have to continue to dig deeper than 3 feet, it'll get closer to 100. But we're monitoring that, again, on a daily basis with our third-party testing. So I can stop right there if you have any questions on any of these numbers. I know it's a lot to absorb, especially for the 3 new commissioners. And we've got all the backup and everything else. And as I said, Scott's been very involved, so has Bruce Quail. So,
what's your plan on the 3 foot of material that you're going to be digging out in the pit?
We'll dispose of that wherever it makes the most sense from an economical standpoint. So it will leave the site for sure. We're not going to rebury it for sure, but it'll get dealt with within the schedule, within what's the right. I don't have an exact answer for you where we're going to take it, and it actually depends on what we dig up. Right now it's just stumps. It's not construction debris like sheetrock. It's mostly just organics.
Yeah, I went out there and looked at it with Scott probably 6 months ago when I first found it. But and most of the time you have a lot of topsoil. Is what you really have if you was to screen that material. Is there a lot of topsoil needed for that material job site?
We did have a lot, and you'll see that big pile of dirt over there. That is topsoil, and we have gotten rid of some of the topsoil. We've taken it to the training center, but what you see over there, that big pile is topsoil. Yes, sir. Okay. So progress. As you know, it's raining a lot, so the progress has still been going well, although it's challenging at times. But steel erection at the LEC is in progress. You can see that going on. CME block work is in progress. And again, all this is getting not only the project team's review, but also third-party testing, which is Nova Engineering. Precast, 100% complete at support, 95 at the housing. Roof installation is beginning, and what happens is it's double T's, a lot of that structure. So when it rains, it takes a while you got to get the moisture out of that. You can't put a barrier over that, especially a roof, and seal all that water in. So Anyway, that's one challenge on the roof. And the steel cells are expected to begin delivering by the end of January. And that will be, if you want something to see, that's actually really, really interesting. And you want to see a really good example of lean construction on how that works, the precast and then sliding in those cells. It's pretty amazing. So, again, here's some pictures. Steel erection at LEC, slabs poured at the support area, underground rough ends at the housing, and there's a lot of stuff under those slabs, conduit and plumbing piping, mechanical above in the support. So schedule, critical path, the structure, elevated deck at Law Enforcement Center should be completed February 8th. Precast panel structures, law enforcement, middle of February. Pouring of slabs in Law Enforcement Center February 19th. Steel cells should be complete by March 8th. They really push the job because they come in tractor trailers. They're coming. They're made up in Habersham County, up in Toccoa. Interior build-out, housing, medical support, January 15th, 2020. Law Enforcement Center, summer of this year. We expect substantial completion end of January of 2020, and final completion March 23rd, 2020. And that date Turner's done an excellent job with the team. And in November, the date was scheduled out to be April 28th, 2020. So we always felt like we could make up some time even with this rain, and we have. So it's all good news. And that's the elevation of what it's going to look like. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Contingency remaining?
Owner contingency is $250,000.
Any other questions? Thanks so much, Eric.
Thank you very much.
We have no citizens who have signed up for agenda items. Under consent agenda items, we have one, which is to reappoint Carrie Tidmore to the Airport Authority Board with a term ending December 31st, 2019.
Dave, I know I told you yesterday I thought I'd want to leave it on consent agenda, but I do have a little bit of discussion on that, so could we please move that to regular business?
Okay.
That came up in my prep last night. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about that.
Okay. We'll move the consent agenda item up to new business number 2. Under old business, number 1 is discuss action to adopt resolution 19-01 confirming executive session from the 2 p.m. board meeting on January the 8th, 2019 for the purpose of personnel, real estate, and pending and potential litigation. Under new business, number 1 is to discuss action to approve the contract services agreement for the Paulding County Kiosk program for a period of 2 years, and Ms. Littman's going to report. Thank you, Ann.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for letting me come talk to you about the kiosk. I want to first bring up, how do I make that one go away? There we go. Maybe. I'll get started. Maybe it'll come back up. We've had the kiosk program in place for approximately 7 years. It was initiated in 2012 with a 3-year contract and 2 extensions. The contract was amended twice to allow for 4 more years of extension. So the program's been in place for 7 years. As of right now, we have 111 sign structures with 337 panels on them, and FL Graphics has collected over 33,000 pounds of litter on the sides of the right-of-way. We wanted to update the contract. Basically, we took out all the references to the beginning of the contract. We corrected some grammatical errors and typos. We've put in there to have this initial contract, I'm just calling it an updated contract for 2 years, since this board will be in place for 2 years, and then we've put in provisions for annual renewals. Mr. Morgan is here and can answer any questions that you may have, and we did put a provision in. You know what the existing kiosks look like. They have the county seal, so they have been kind enough to do one with our Explore, Unwind, Thrive logo, which I actually like this better. I think it's a little more friendly and welcoming. So if the contract says that we have the choice of which one of our logos to use. So if the majority of the board likes this logo, any new kiosk and any kiosks that are maintained will be changed to the new logo. And be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
So we, three of y'all are new, and so I don't know your involvement with this as citizens before you were here. This came about, I guess, 7 years ago. It was 3 years, and was it two-year extensions? Is
Well,
that
it was
correct?
3 years with 2 annual renewals, and then it didn't make any provisions for any more renewals, so we amended the contract to allow for annual renewals, which happened twice.
Okay. And so last year there was some frustration around signs in the right of way. It happened around election time, and there were some issues that came up there, and that's what brought me into it. And we had a meeting, and I don't remember everybody. I think it was just Ann and Dean and me and Frank. Maybe Scott was in there. I don't remember. But we had talked about some things, and I appreciate the work on this, Ann. One of the things that I would like to see us here, there were some things that were concerns there that I want to make sure, I don't know that are addressed as well as they could be in this contract. The first one is very simple. I'd like to ask the board if we can change the 2-year to a 1-year, but leave the renewal verbiage in there so that the initial term is just 1 year instead of 2. There was also, FL Graphics had some, there was some frustration on their side as far as chain of communication. Who were they supposed to deal with the county as they were dealing with the sign pickup and documenting what they had picked up off the right-of-ways and handling the sign pickup. And I didn't see in here, it's possible I missed it, but I didn't see in here where we were handling the chain of communication, who they're working directly with and how that's defined. And Jason, I don't know if that should be part of the contract or if we just need to set policy with them and direct them for who they should be working with on a day-to-day basis. I'll let you offer maybe some input on that in a minute. The other issue that was an issue came up during election time is under a conflict of interest type of a situation. We need to define in here what will happen if there is a conflict, whether FL Graphics prints signs for someone and then is supposed to go clean them up out of the right-of-way. Last year we had to deploy marshals to do some sign pickup, and we need to make sure that we let our marshals do what our marshals need to do and let the sign pickup happen by the folks that are supposed to pick up the signs. And so we need a conflict of interest verbiage added in there, and so I would ask that we instruct Jason to add that verbiage to cover for conflict of interest. And then the final thing that I have before I let maybe Jason chime in on some of this is that logo change. We're talking about changing that logo on all of the existing or just new? All of the existing? Okay. Is that at our expense? No. Okay. That answers that question clearly. So about the 1 year versus 2, the chain of communication and the conflicts of interest. Jason, would you have any insight on any of those concerns?
Sure. Just taking those in order, 1 year versus 2. That's within the board's discretion as to what y'all want to have in there. Whatever y'all decide to have in there, we'll make sure is in there. Of course, FL Graphics is the other contracting party. Presumably, if y'all decide that it's going to be 1 year renewable and they're agreeable to that, then there'll be a contract. On the second question regarding contact points I think you raised a good point there. For me personally, I believe that should really be a policy issue. We can certainly put it in a contract who the policy points will be, or the contact points would be.
And that is in there, who notice should go to.
Oh, did I miss that
myself on behalf of the county and Dean Morgan on behalf of FL Graphics. And
okay. Well,
in discussing this, we talked about, like in the past, and I've spoken briefly to Chief Hess, just to have because right now, if he wants a new kiosk, he sends the information to me and I coordinate with DOT, and I'm fine to continue doing that. And I've also, with Chief Hess, as far as if he locates something that appears to be in the right of way, to also send that to me and have one of our planning and zoning staff, and then we would coordinate with the Marshal Bureau if we did find it in the right of way.
I'm good with all that. I just wanted it set forth, so that was my oversight. I apologize.
And then on the conflict of interest, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're referring to a situation where there may be signs within the right-of-way. Those signs may have been manufactured by FL Graphics.
Yeah.
Or may not have.
Well, it could be. I mean, that's the one that comes to mind, but it could be, I don't know, maybe his brother's running for office or is buying houses for cash cheap or something like that, where there's a conflict there. We need some verbiage that says what's going to happen if he's in that kind of situation.
Sure, I could see that happening. You know, at the end of the day, if we have a prohibition against signs in the right-of-way, there shouldn't be any signs in the right-of-way, regardless of content, regardless of manufacture. So I'll be glad to put some language in there that addresses that.
I would appreciate that if we're good with that. And I don't know if any of the rest of you guys would like to comment on any of those, or if you have any input on your own.
I would like to thank Ann and Dean, and I got involved in this just a little bit in figuring some of this stuff out, but they did a great job in revising that contract, and I think that 2-year is, I think it's more than fair, you know, to allow this man to do business, because he's doing a really good service for the county. This is kind of a solution. Like years ago, we paid people and had signage departments and stuff like that, and some of these responsibilities fell on this. This man is actually handing us a check quarterly, and we're handing him a little bit of money back, a little small percentage, and I don't want to throw those numbers out, but I think it's probably in the 20 to 30% range. But we're retaining almost everything he's handing us back. These are the kind of creative solutions in government that we want to see, and these are the kind of relationships we want to build. And as for the conflict, when they did have a change, I think, in departments, I think that there was some confusion, maybe on the onset, on who he reported to.
There was some confusion.
But it's been resolved.
Yeah, okay.
That's all.
So are we good with Jason adding language about the conflict? I saw some heads nod about the 1 year versus 2, so I don't know where the board wants to go on that, but are we good with language about conflicts of interest?
Yeah, I'm fine with the conflicts of interest, but I'd like to keep it at 2 years. I just, you know, being in business for yourself, having to redo something every year, it really just makes things tougher when we don't have to, you know, every 2 years.
The initial contract on this was 3 years to kind of give it time to get up and running, and then so once it's up and running, I think we would benefit from having flexibility of making changes on an annual basis versus 2 years. I certainly see where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with you, but that was just.
It just makes it tougher on Dean to run his business if he has to worry about it every year.
If y'all want to leave, it sounds like y'all want to leave that at 2 years. So that's fine, but Jason, if you would change or add some language about how conflicts are handled.
Yes, sir.
And that's all the concerns or questions I have for that, Dave.
Thank you. Will it be good for the afternoon or the evening meeting? You know, enough time to get that in there? We need to table this. You recommend a table?
Depends how long y'all go. I think I can probably get that in before this evening's meeting.
I can look too and see if I can come up with something to help you out. Okay. And I was going to say, I do think we are actually going to see an increase in the kiosks, because if you look at the permit data, the permits are expanding beyond the northeast corner. We have a lot of subdivisions in the south part of the county that haven't necessarily participated in the kiosk program. So I think with the growth beyond where our traditional building has been to the south part of the county, we may see even more kiosks in the next 2 years. So.
And I would like to ask one more question. Have you received any calls, or any other staff received any calls about competitive interest?
No, we have not.
Thank you very much for your report.
Thanks, Ann.
That is the conclusion of regular business.
I'm sorry, Dave. We have new business item number 2 that was moved from the consent agenda.
We do, yeah. New business item number 2 is to reappoint Carrie Tidmore to the Airport Authority with a term ending December 31st, 2021.
And I just had a question for you. Certainly appreciate any citizens willing to serve on these boards. We struggle to find people willing to be on the boards, and then it's a good service to the county, and I appreciate everyone who's willing to do that. My question around this appointee or this reappointment is with attendance at the meetings. Have you had an opportunity to speak with him about if he's able to? He was at 2 meetings last year, and we need people who are able to make these meetings a priority. And I don't know what the schedule looks like or whatever. And my concern is reappointing someone who's not able to be there on a regular basis. And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk with him, or if you can provide me a phone number, I can give a phone call this afternoon if we want to do that.
That would probably be a better solution, is for you and Mr. Tidmore just to talk. He is a FedEx pilot out of Memphis, Tennessee, who's been on international routes until 6 months ago, and now he's on
48 contiguous routes. Yeah, I wasn't questioning qualifications.
The international puts you out of town a lot more than,
right, I understand
than being.
That. Well, if you can get me his, I don't think I have his cell phone number. If you can get me his number between meetings, I'll give him a call.
Please do, and even in his absence, because of his career, he, from the executive director of the airport, helps and provides assistance more than any other board member because of his expertise in the aviation world. But yeah, I'd rather have you talk with him.
That'll be fine. I'll call him this afternoon. Thank you.
That's the conclusion of regular business. We do have a requirement to go into, see if anybody is signed up to speak for non-agenda. They haven't. So we have the requirement to go into executive session for real estate and pending and potential litigation.
Dave, was there personnel in there as well?
That has been taken out.
Okay. Okay.
And we can talk about that, the reason for taking it out, rather than take up everybody's time. But
that's fine. I just want to make sure we didn't overlook it.
All right, thank you. And I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for these reasons. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion that we go to executive session for real estate, pending, and potential litigation.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Caker. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned to go into executive session.